What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I'm glad you stopped by. Today I want to talk to you about something, a pretty heavy topic, creeping authoritarianism. That's what we've been living through here in the United States for at least since the COVID came on, and maybe you could argue before that even happened. But anyway, before we get into this, I want to establish some ground rules. What do I mean by authoritarianism or authoritarian? An authoritarian government is a government that holds power and makes policies without the consent of the people that it rules. So let that sink in a second. They're basically, when I think of authoritarian, the first image that comes to my mind is Adolf Hitler. He was probably the most famous one, but there's been many others. Mussolini, Pol Pot, many others. Stalin. There have been lots of authoritarians throughout history that we can reference back to, and they're always evil bastards. They're always evil to the core, killing people out in the street or starving them to death. Take your pick. 100 million people have been killed by authoritarians over the years. It gets blamed on communism alone, and that is true, but those communists are all headed by authoritarian leaders. Authoritarian governments often use their power to suppress dissent and exert their control over the dissemination of information, including mass media. So does that sound familiar to you? After going through everything we went through with the COVID 1984 tyranny that we all had to live through and go through right here in the good old United States of America, the last place on God's green earth that you would ever expect to see this level of authoritarianism happening. It happened. We lived through it. Remember the masks, the lockdowns, the putting people out of business, on and on and on. Not going to church. An argument could be made that that was a violation of the First Amendment. The right to, free assembly. You're allowed to assemble. So anyway, and also it's stepping on the toes of the churches and stuff like that. But many of those churches caved and they closed. Many, if not all of the businesses around me caved and closed and did exactly what the authoritarian leaders at the time said that they should do. And they did it in the name of public safety. They did it in the name of the greater good. Oh, we're doing this for your own good so that we can save your life, so you don't want someone's grandma to die. Remember all that crap, all that propaganda that was pushed and peddled by everyone on the mainstream media, everyone on the internet, including Google and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and all of the revelations that have come out since then about Twitter and all the things they were doing. They were doing everything that we all suspected that YouTube and all the others are doing. They're shadow banning people. They're suppressing people. They're giving people multiple strikes for things that are just, so asinine you can't even believe it. The latest push here on YouTube is if you insert a magazine into an AR-15, a standard capacity magazine into an AR-15, then you get a strike on your channel. Unfreaking believable. YouTube is one part of they're part of the machine. They're the mouthpiece of the machine. They're part of this whole deal. Don't kid yourself. Even though people like me get away with putting out some dissent on their channel, this dissent will be suppressed. No doubt about it. I had something really interesting happen not too long ago. I've said for a long time that I suspect my channel has been shadow banned since the COVID came on. Not right at the beginning of the COVID, but like during the middle of the COVID. I was criticizing the government's policies, the lockdowns, the masks, the forced vaccination, all this other stuff. I was very critical of that stuff. Some of my videos got strikes. Some of them got taken down. Some of them got labeled as misinformation, even though now, with enough time that's gone by, none of that was misinformation. All of that stuff that I was saying turned out to be absolutely true. But YouTube's not coming to me and apologizing for all the videos they made me take down during that COVID stuff. No. And I'm just lucky that I skated through the eye of the needle and I wasn't given a full ban or whatever. In fact, recently I had 2 strikes and I thought they were going to give me a third one and just nuke my channel. But since then, I've gotten rid of those strikes. So that's part of the reason I've backed off on some of the political talk, is because I realize that every time I say something that's getting over the target, YouTube gives me a strike. So this is clearly authoritarianism. These people are the ones that use their power to suppress dissent. They did it all. They established this crap all throughout COVID, and the people, the sheeple, they put up with it. They keep going. The eyeballs keep showing up on YouTube. I don't know why that is. I made a Rumble channel. I can't get any views over there on Rumble. I don't understand it. But a little while back, I put a video out that got extreme traction. I was just like, wow, instead of just getting 500 or 600 views off of a video, this one got like 25,000 views. Now, it was about a topic that was pretty critical at the time, the Tractor Supply chicken feed issue. And maybe that was the only reason. But I started looking at where, on my statistics on YouTube, where those views were coming from. And somehow I slipped through the YouTube algorithm and Google was promoting my video. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, is this what it's like to not be shadow banned? Because I have 25,000 plus subscribers, so you would think that when I put a video out, at least a percentage, even a quarter of those people would get notifications or at least get to see my thumbnail come across their main feed. But YouTube suppresses that stuff. So the last thing I want to say about authoritarianism here is authoritarianism is the oldest type of government in human history. So as far back as you can go on recorded human history, authoritarianism has been the ruler of the day. And that's no coincidence. It always seems to revert back to that. So no matter how good of a republic or a democracy you have set up, it always seems to go, enough time goes by, it always goes back to the authoritarian rule. And we want to avoid that, obviously, as freedom-loving Americans. So all we can do is resist. So one of the things that all authoritarians have in common is they can't stand an armed society. You can look around the world at, all the different stuff that's gone on. Australia banned the guns. England banned the guns. Canada they've just about damn near banned everything up there. And they're working on it. They're picking it away. Death by 1,000 cuts. Through incrementalism, they're slowly taking away Canadians' ability to defend themselves. I remember reading about something years ago over in Australia. You could actually have certain kinds of bolt action guns, but you had to have the bolt in a separate safe, separated from the gun. You couldn't have it loaded. You couldn't have it ready to go to use for self-defense because they don't believe in that over there anymore. Their governments don't. The people probably do, like we do, but their governments of Australia, England, Canada, they don't believe that you have the right to self-defense. So I remember years ago, like back in the 80s and 90s, it was probably more into the 90s, I remember seeing England going through that stuff, and they were actually, article after article about whether or not this person had the right to defend himself from a rapist that was coming in to rape this guy's wife. He was like, I stabbed him with a butcher knife because he was going to rape my wife. He said he was going to rape my wife. Here's the proof. It's on video camera. They pressed charges on that guy for defending himself, for trying to keep someone from raping or harming his family. Just unbelievable. And that's what they're going for here, guys. That's the end goal. They want to disarm us, and Trump is not squeaky clean either. Remember the whole deal with the Las Vegas shooting and how that was a huge deal for about 2 weeks. And they were like, what the hell's going on? This guy went up there and just started opening fire on a country concert, killed a whole bunch of people, and he had a bump stock. And sure enough, the Democrats used that momentum to get Trump to ban bump stocks during his term. He should have never done that. Because again, it's just like your mama told you. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And that's what these people have their sights set on. Just the other day in Biden's mumbling speech that he gave, his State of the Union, he kept saying semi-automatic handgun. He said it over and over and over as if to vilify semi-automatic handguns. And then he follows up that we're going to ban assault weapons. He's basically lumping in semi-automatic pistols with assault weapons. Before it's all said and done, they will say all semi-automatic weapons will have to be banned under the new assault weapons ban if Biden gets his way. And that's what he's pushing for. Everything he's done since he came into office has basically been a big red flag saying, yeah, I don't like the Second Amendment. I'm coming for your guns. The latest thing is the pistol brace thing. I would argue that it's unconstitutional, and a lot of people are arguing that it's unconstitutional, but it's hard to make that argument when there's 15 ATF guys standing outside your door, or not even that, in your bedroom with AR-15s pointed at your head at 5 o'clock in the morning when you're sleeping in there. That's how they do it. They do you like Roger Stone. They kick the door in and trash your house and seize all your guns, and you're a criminal. You're guilty until proven innocent in this new authoritarian regime. You know, I've done countless videos on communism and how this is communism infiltrating our system all the time, and how the communists had 45 goals for America, and out of those 45, at least 43 or 44 of them have been completed fully. There's only a couple more left. One of them is firearms. The communists were on the same mindset as the authoritarian governments. Why is that? Because they are the same. They tell you, oh, it's all going to be good. We're all going to live in a commune. It's going to be like a bunch of hippies. Everybody's going to be growing their own thing. And oh, yeah, it's going to all be great. But it's never that way. The communists always seize the means of production. And then they use that power to starve people out, their political enemies. It's happened over and over and over, and it's happening now. It's happening now in the United States of America. We're supposed to be protected from this sort of stuff through a couple of pieces of paper. That's all we have, and our own ideas. And one of the most famous lines that I remember from V for Vendetta is, ideas are bulletproof. And there's a lot of truth to that. Ideas are bulletproof. And the right ideas of freedom and liberty are worth fighting for to the bitter end. I advise you, unless you want to live under an authoritarian regime, unless you want to end up like Nazi Germany and the concentration camps and people being pushed into train cars, unless you want that to happen, you better stand up and you better fight for your rights, your God-given natural rights that we have, that are endowed by our Creator. And see, that's another thing they're attacking right now, constantly with the Satanism stuff. I mean, the Grammys just last week, a full-blown Satan performance or whatever, and nobody watched it. Thankfully, less and less people are watching that garbage, but that just means that Hollywood and the music industry, they're going to push that stuff even harder on your kids. Because like I said in another video, 2 or 3 videos ago, it's never been about me and you. It's about your kids. It's about indoctrinating your kids. The communists figured this out years ago. They can't come in and brainwash somebody that has been raised on freedom and liberty. They've got to get someone that doesn't know what freedom and liberty really means. And that's why they've taken over the schools. That's why they've taken over the courts. That's why they've taken over the deep state. That's why they have infiltrated every single organization that the United States and the world has. The communists. They're there. They're embedded, deeply entrenched in these organizations. Their sole purpose is to govern against the consent and the will of the people. To take away your liberty, your freedom, your right, your ability to go out and buy food for your family. All of these things have come into serious question since Biden took office. I think, just from my studies, Biden is the ultimate Manchurian candidate. And I'm not saying he's necessarily controlled by the CIA or MK Ultra or something like that, but he's controlled by the deep state. He's controlled by the people that are pushing authoritarianism. I mean, he wanted to ban your gas stoves just like a couple of weeks ago, man. Ban your ability to cook with gas, saying it's a pollutant and it's causing environmental problems. He wants to get rid of the cattle industry because apparently cows fart too much, according to them, and they're worried about the pollution eating a hole in the ozone or whatever. I don't know what the hell's wrong with these people, but we got to stop them. At the end of the day, it's up to the people like us that did grow up with freedom and liberty to go out and talk to these children, these younger people, and say, look, man, this is how it was when I was a kid. We actually had freedom to go do these things. And we have to tell them why it was better, why, and show them examples of success stories. And maybe some failures too, that, it's not always success stories. When you go out and you're being a rugged individual, sometimes you make the wrong choices and you make mistakes. And you should have to live with those repercussions if something that you did doesn't work out. There are no bailouts. There is no safety net. It's all up to you. Rugged individualism, surviving against all odds. So I wanted to give you a couple more examples just off the top of my head of stories that I've seen here lately that make me think that the authoritarians are tightening their grip, and through incrementalism, they're gaining more and more power, more and more control. One of the things I saw that's just really fresh on my mind is there was this rancher down in Arizona. I'm sure you've heard about it. The guy's name is Kelly, I believe. And he's like a 73, 75-year-old man, been ranching there all his life. It's him and his wife taking care of the place. And apparently some illegals, because he's right on the border down there, apparently some illegals, or one illegal or something, came in and to his property. And the story goes, the illegal was armed and they pulled a gun on him, and he pulled his gun out and smoked the dude like it wasn't no thing. And that's how it's supposed to be, right? Somebody threatens your life, you're allowed to defend yourself. So they've got the guy locked up now because he was defending his property and himself, and they set bail at $1 million, and the guy couldn't afford that, and he went to the judge, pleading to the judge, of course a liberal judge that has no law background. He went and pleaded to the judge. He was like, hey man, my wife's at home, she can't take care of the ranch, I need to be there, could you please lower my bail? And the judge was like, no, denied. No, denied. Meanwhile, if this guy would have been Antifa or BLM or any of that other stuff, the judge would have just been like, slap on the wrist, go on about your business, you didn't do anything wrong. So it's this double standard of the justice system that's another indication that we're heading towards authoritarianism. So this guy, Kelly, this rancher, somebody got a GoFundMe started so they could help him out with the bail. And GoFundMe decided that they weren't going to allow that to happen. They're picking sides in this legal issue. So I did a story about a month or so ago about a convenience store clerk out in California who had to, use a firearm to defend himself and the store against a criminal that was coming in there to rob the place. He was waving a gun around and stuff. So the clerk wisely pulled out a pistol and shot the guy. I don't know if he killed the guy or what. I don't think so. I think the guy lived, and that's why the California DA arrested the convenience store clerk, and were pressing charges against him for defending himself, his life, and his property, or the store's property. Unbelievable. Over and over and over, you see these videos with graphic footage where it's someone defending themselves against a criminal. So we see this stuff all the time. The two-tier justice system, where if you're of one ideology, then you're slapped on the wrist and let go. And in fact, you could even be convicted of crimes and let out of prison. They're doing this all around the country. They're letting violent criminals out. Meanwhile, they're locking up 73-year-old men for defending their property. Yeah, that's what's going on in our country right now. So guys, I hope I've given you something here to think about. We've got to spread the word. It's up to us. I know these people are hard to reach. I know when you're talking to someone that's of the younger generation, it's kind of like talking to someone with a head full of mashed potatoes. And especially if they're leftists. It's going to be really hard to get through, to break through that brainwashing. It really is like the Matrix. It's like they're stuck in the Matrix. You're trying to pull them out of the Matrix. You're trying to show them that there's a real world out here that doesn't revolve around all this social politics and stuff. But they don't want to see the real world. They refuse to look at the real world. They prefer to eat the fake steak, just like in the movie. So guys, unfortunately, that's what's going on. Authoritarians have come in and infiltrated the United States of America, and they're using incrementalism to install their policies all around the country. And many of the younger people out there today, they can't be reached. I don't know what to tell you. You got to try. Don't give up on trying. But many of them, you're not going to be able to break through the brainwashing. I mean, it's just too intense. They've been raised with this brainwashing idea that collectivism is good, individual liberty is selfish. So it's hard to say how we're going to make it out of this and still maintain a free country after it's all said and done. I expect things to get a lot worse before they get better, even up to the point of perhaps government agents coming to your home and seizing your guns and things like that. Yeah. Seizing the means of production, starving people out that are their political enemies. I mean, it'd be pretty simple for someone like Biden to look around the country and go, okay, that's a red state. We're going to cut them off of food. Oh, that's a blue state. We're going to send the food over there. And in fact, there were some examples of that with the, I can't remember what that treatment was called, but there was a special treatment, monoclonal something, antibodies or something like that during the COVID. And Biden was refusing to send any down to Florida because DeSantis was dissenting too much from the leftist ideology. So guys, let that sink in. I mean, there's just nothing surprises me anymore. The balloon floating by, Biden doing nothing about it till it was already all the way across the United States of America. Now we're finding out that he was directly involved in giving the order to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. I mean, that is an act of terrorism. Authoritarians are very dangerous, and it may be the end of the United States of America if we don't stop it. So guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Let me know what you think about all this stuff. Am I off my rocker? Is everything just the same as it always was and I'm just looking too deep into this stuff or something like that? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you think about all this. I mean, I feel like I only barely scratched the surface here. There are so many other examples of authoritarianism that I could point to over the last 20, 40 years that we could be here all day. So we don't want to do that. I appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too.